All right, so for our last session on ingenuity, we thought, why not end big? And so we have a pleasure of welcoming Pimm from Bloomberg as a reporter to interview two titans of the industry. It's really an honor and a pleasure. I see Al Pimm. Where are you? Pimm? You want to come on stage? I can't see, I'm sorry. Great, there, good. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Pimm, Stan Bergman, and Al Mann in our closing the keynote for the opening session. Thank you.
Good to see you. All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you very much. Mr. Mann, thank you very much. Stan Bergman, thank you very much. Just before I get started, and I don't know how much you know about both of these gentlemen, but I guess it was Sunday. I don't know, does anybody here, we asked that question about iPhones, people using iPhones. Anybody here ever see the TV program Mad Men? Everybody familiar with Mad Men? Yeah. Well, they're going to have their last season. And the London Hotel, which is just across the street from this hotel, had its annual sort of grab bag event in which the stars of said movie, this case Mad Men, the stars are put in various hotel rooms and they run the reporters through the hotel rooms and you get 7 minutes. And then someone comes with a hook and drags the reporter out, and then another reporter goes in. And I got the chance to interview these stars. One is John Hamm, he plays Don Draper. The other one, January Jones and John Slattery, and so on. And I thought, well, this is odd because this is a program that celebrates almost the sort of complete discredited notion that spending your client's money poorly is supposed to be a fun thing, because then, of course, it leads to all those personal complications. But in going and doing a little research of Mr. Mann and Mr. Bergman, I came away with a theme that these are two gentlemen who spend and have spent their time thinking of ways to help other people. And I'd like Stan Bergman to just begin with one of your biggest, or maybe your biggest influence, is your mother. And she told you something at a very early age, and you've been able to put it to good work.
Pimm, you have a very good memory.
There you go.
What my mother said is, it's all about people. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what business you're in. You can have the greatest ideas. You can come up with a terrific idea. But how do you turn that idea into reality? It's not about the brilliant idea. It's about, in our case, commercializing the idea. And to commercialize the idea, you need a team. It's all about people.
Mr. Mann, Alfred Mann, one of the things that I noted recently because of all of the news about satellites and space travel is I kept thinking somebody must have figured out a way to create power for spacecraft. And of course, that's just one of the things that you helped to do. Could you speak a little bit about the team and the people and the different roles necessary to make that kind of success?
Well, actually, the way my career started, I was in electro-optical physics in the Army. U.S. Army needed help for a guidance system for an anti-tank missile. And they came to me seeking help, and my boss wouldn't let me do it. So I went out and I told the Army how I would try to solve their problem, and their vendor couldn't do it, so the Army actually set me up in business. That's how I got started. That was 1956. And then that business expanded and really provided the power for virtually all the free world spacecraft. a lot of other things as well. But one of my customers was the Applied Physics Laboratory at Johns Hopkins University. It's the government lab run by Hopkins. And in late 1960s, they were trying to use the methodology and technology at APL to improve medical products. And they came to me in '69 and said, Al, they wanted me to try to develop a cardiac pacemaker that would last more than a year and a half. And pacemakers then lasted 18 to 21 months. And I decided to go ahead with it, and that changed my career. And since then, I've concentrated on trying to solve unmet or poorly met medical problems. And what got me excited was that my first pacemaker was implanted in February 10th of 1973, and the second one in July, and in a young girl, and that girl was still alive 2 years ago, and now a grown woman and still using the same pacemaker after 40 years. And getting that excitement, that improvement in healthcare got me turned on to where I've concentrated on a lot of things. I've created some 14 companies, and I've funded 3 from my foundation. And of those 14, 10 have been in medical products. I've sold 6 of them for just under $8 billion. So it's been fairly successful. All I can say is it's been a wonderful experience for me.
Stan, one of the things that Al talked about is problem solving. And you can't solve every problem by yourself, particularly when you're running a company of 16,000 people. I'm wondering if you can recall what it was like when there weren't 16,000 people. I guess you joined in '89. How problem solving has changed for you over the period.
Yeah, problem solving, I think, has the same theme, whether you're 5 people in a room or you, as we have today, thousands of people in the company. It's really about first coming up in some kind of a brainstorming environment and finding something inspirational. But then you have to engage the team. And to me, the vision that I always have in front of me when engaging the team is the summer camp counselor. How do you get everybody on the playing field engaged? And when you get everybody engaged, it's amazing how problems get solved. And the key is, and the key lesson I've learned that perhaps I didn't have, I joined the company in 1980, I became CEO in '89, is that in order to get things done, and I think Mr. Mann will agree, don't give up. Because there are so many naysayers, and if you can mobilize the team to get through the problems and not give up, you'll get there.
That idea of persistence, I'm wondering if, Alfred, Mann, whether you can speak to that, but in the context that it's one thing to be persistent and be the head of a company and realize that just because you're the head of the company, you can't make everybody do what you think they're supposed to do. But you've got to be persistent and still be focused on the goal.
Absolutely. Of course, I really do. I'm really infamous for being persistent. Dealing today in the world of healthcare products in the United States, you have to deal with the regulatory process. And for example, the program we have going at MannKind Corporation is a program that was started over 15 years ago.
Is this the inhaled insulin business?
Yeah, actually what we do is we create we've been able to stabilize monomeric insulin, which has never been done before, so that we're able to create a system where it's a powder, so we inhale it. All you do for a meal, instead of taking an injection, you go, that's all you have to do. But what's important about it is the kinetics are virtually identical to what you see in pancreatic insulin, in natural physiologic insulin. If you plot the two curves, the one from our label and the one from the pancreas, you can hardly put a pencil line between the two curves. They're so identical, and the current insulins are nowhere near that, and they create all sorts of problems, and we basically avoid those problems.
Avoiding problems is a good thing, and you have to be able to measure outcome in order to avoid problems. Stan, is there an art to being able to quickly, at a certain point, quickly deal with a problem and move on and not let it bog you down?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, I think, Pimm. In success in any enterprise, you have to deal with the ambiguity quickly. And I think those leaders that can get through dealing with ambiguity quickly are the ones that make a difference and are successful. It's not easy, and sometimes you have to just make that decision and move on. Perfection, of course, is a problem. I don't mean with regulatory, I think you've got to be precise there, but with the innovation side. And if you brood too long about an issue, you just will not get on. You got to get moving, get the team to come up with the right answer quickly. Consensus building, quick consensus building at the end of the day is what's required in any business today. It's not easy, it's an acquired taste, not everybody likes it, but if you can build consensus quickly, you'll get through that problem very quickly.
Alfred, Mann, there's a story of Robert Oppenheimer walking into a laboratory at Los Alamos after scientists had been working on a particular problem for several weeks. It was unsolved. And apparently, even though he was not the easiest person to get along with, he came into this room and after about 5 minutes suggested and wrote something on the board and walked out. And the response was, you may not get the answer, but he gave you a pathway, a direction, a new way of thinking about something. I'm wondering if in your career you can describe a situation where you thought you were going to go one way, but because of events or circumstance, you had to go somewhere else.
Well, it's kind of fascinating. As I said before, I've been very persistent, and I've tried to establish a technology for an unmet or poorly met medical need, and have concentrated on that. I haven't really changed directions. Been small changes in the technology, but very small, and the programs have all basically proceeded to success. Every one of them.
Stan, you ever make a business decision and then regret it?
Oh, all the time.
Well, I make a lot of decisions that are not great, trying to deal with the current process to develop a product. I mean, for example, the FDA decided 4 years ago not to approve this product. That was a real challenge for us because it was going to cost a lot of money, but I persisted. Altogether, I've personally invested $975 million in this product.
It's about persistence. But the big challenge, Pimm, is values. Values can never be out-trumped by smartness. And I think in any business, if you have leaders that do not subscribe to the values of your corporation, you can't move them out fast enough. And my mistakes have always revolved around saying that person is really smart, understands the business, understands the products, but doesn't subscribe to the values. It will get better. You either have the values or you don't. And if you wait, you cause a cancer in the business.
In your experience, do you see that early and just deny it? Or Are you a romantic? You
Yes,
think people will reform?
the latter.
Really?
That's the mistake. You always, of course, you have to be an optimist and not a pessimist in business. I think if you were a pessimist, you wouldn't bring out these products because the glass would be half empty. Having said that, all my big mistakes, and I make them regularly, I find people and I say, gee whiz, the resume is perfect. But they don't subscribe to the values. I'm going to give them one more chance, and then the one more chance, the one more chance.
Does that include, I'm wondering, you're able to invest your own money, but what about trying to get outside investors? Does that also include?
Well, I've been able to raise money outside as well. As I said, in MannKind Corporation, I put in personally $975 million, but altogether we've invested over $2 billion in this product. So we've been able to raise money externally.
Have you
That's
ever
a
had
public
a
company.
situation in
Pardon?
which? Have you ever had a situation in which someone wanted to be an investor, but you felt that for whatever reason it would not be a good fit?
Well, that's happened lots of times, actually. People come in because they just look at instead of trying to really to find a solution to a major problem, they really just want to make money. And since I've had a reputation for success, they come to me and want to invest money, again, for the wrong reasons.
Stan, have you had that with investors? It's a little difficult since you're, well,
As a public company,
as a public company, you love all your investors.
Well, I
like-
wouldn't say that,
Yeah,
but you
okay.
can't choose your friends.
Yeah.
They come along. But when we do marketing, I'll spend extra time with an investor that cares about culture. Because to me, especially in a business like ours where there's no barriers to entry and we're multiple of the size of our competitors, and the only way we differentiate ourselves, I think, is because of our unique culture, which is a values-based culture with a deep sense of social responsibility. So that ties us in with our suppliers, our customers, you would think, because they're healthcare professionals, they like social responsible companies, and our team, of course. So I'll spend extra time with investors that care about culture and care about companies that are social responsible. Of course, I won't give them extra information, but I'll explain how our culture works and why culture is important at Henry Schein.
How we do things is as important as how much money we make doing it.
Yes.
You don't need to leave a trail of wreckage behind you.
Absolutely. The easiest thing is to invest and leave a wreckage behind you. The hardest thing is to do the right thing with the right idea.
In talking about entrepreneurs and people who are at a stage where success is something that is ill-defined at the moment, do you have any guidance or thoughts that can sustain them as they go through that journey? Because ultimately it's a pretty lonely place.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the simple Maslow's triangle is so important in all of us. What we want to do is we want to find ways in which, of course, we need the basic, we need money. And then to live on, to do what we need to do in our lives or want to do in our lives. But at the end of the day, we're all looking for something greater, something more meaningful, some purpose in life. And if you can align the interests of your partners with yourself, and by the way, I think you know this, Pimm, about a third of Henry Schein's sales are in joint ventures because we're in so many things from making software to making dog food. And it's such a spectrum that we can't make it all ourselves. So we have partnerships. And if you can align your interests with partners who are looking for something much more than just to make a big buck, it lifts the tide and the organization can grow on the backs of others so long as you recognize the value they bring.
Well done. Alfred Mann, last point to you. Is a decision-making process, is the way you make decisions something that has changed over the years, or do you have a checklist in your mind how to go through things and assess them?
Oh, I'd say the decision-making has changed, especially in the last half a dozen or so years. For example, at MannKind Corporation, I don't make all the decisions. We have a team that make the decisions, and that's quite different from my early career.
Was that difficult to adjust to?
No.
As long as they make the right decisions?
Well, obviously, it's nice to make the right decisions. So far, I've been very fortunate because all my ventures have been successful.
Well, we're fortunate to have you, and we're out of time. I guess we have time for maybe one or two questions if anybody has a question.
Pimm, can I just say something
Yes, you
to
can.
our Israeli guests that are here? Israel is no doubt the country for innovation. And great ideas are important. But when you think of your great idea, please think of the next step, commercialization. It's not good enough to be the best beta site. It's more important to be the best site, that product that actually works in the field. There is a difference between innovation and commercialization. And my experience with Israeli entrepreneurs is the ideas are brilliant, way ahead of anybody else. But you've got to turn those ideas into products with the box and with the label and instructions inside how to use.
I'd like to say, I'd like to reiterate what you just said. What we've found from the Israelis as well as others is that innovation is great, but if you don't know how to turn the product into a business, it doesn't work.
All right. I think we'll leave it there. That's sobering enough. I want to thank you both very much, and thank all of you.
Thank you.